Young Joel, a 24-year-old man working in an office job, recently gets in a relationship with a girl in his company as he describes, according to him, to be the cutest in the building. As things are starting to go well, all hell breaks loose with his beloved girlfriend getting kidnapped and both her and his own life being on stake, threatened to be murdered. Howdy, it's your boy R and welcome to the video. Hit me up on Twitter with your game requests as I check them all, or try to, even if I take some time to go over them. This video will have spoilers. With that said, let's begin. Young Joel, a 24-year-old, seemingly working in an office job, describes how lucky he is to have found himself a girlfriend, a fresh employee at their company called Yuna. His previous girlfriend, whom he's broken up with, seems to have been a troublemaker, giving him a lot of grief, something vague that he doesn't want to discuss any further. Nonetheless, Young Joel is happy to be with another girl, even saying that Yuna is the cutest girl in their company. Due to a recent project which has cost him work overnight and even at home, he's forced to cancel a date with his beloved girlfriend, visibly being upset and unhappy, as he would rather spend time with her. He eventually arrives back home, sensing a strong pungent smell which he doesn't recognize. He realizes it comes from his overdue laundry and a leftover dirty plate of food, which shows how he barely has time for doing house chores, being usually overwhelmed with his office projects. Signing onto his computer, he checks on Yuna, noticing that she's offline, despite usually being online at this time. Unable to call Yuna after having his phone broken, he decides to check SNS, seemingly a social networking platform, before heading to bed. That's when he receives a message by Yuna, who has an account, asking where he is. Noticing Yuna is not talking like herself, he suspects someone else as using her account, which concerns him, confronting her to why she's speaking like that. That's when whoever is using the account informs him that they will contact him very soon. Concerned about Yuna, Young Joel soon receives a phone call that he doesn't expect at this time. Unsurprisingly, it's the person who had logged onto Yuna's account, who seems to be stalking Young Joel, using a voice filter to distort their voice so Young Joel wouldn't recognize them, especially as it seems he knows this person already. The person on the phone plays with Young Joel in a threatening manner, mentioning his address and mentioning Yuna's address. That's when the person on the line confirms that they're not messing around by making Yuna speak, who begs for help not far from the phone, as if she's restrained, unable to get to the phone or get away from the psychopathic stalker and kidnap her. Yuna continues to beg Young Joel for help, which angers the person on the line, attacking Yuna, who shouts and screams, with stabbing sounds coming from the phone when Yuna suddenly comes to an absolute silence, with the kidnapper confirming that she's dead, intending to visit Young Joel's residence next. The kidnapper even mentions that it was them who caused the electricity to go out, promising Young Joel that he will be killed soon enough. After the call ends, Young Joel tries his door, noticing that he's locked in, seemingly the kidnapper having had tampered with the door. He then decides to call the police when he notices that lines have been cut as well, unable to connect to emergencies. That's when the sense of impending doom starts kicking in, realizing he's in a big mess, having had lost his girlfriend to a maniac who's targeting him next, starting to have a breakdown repeatedly, thinking that he needs help. Slowly recollecting himself, Young Joel thinks to who this person might be, going over the conversation that they said they know him. Someone who might be targeting him out of spite or jealousy, someone who doesn't like neither Yuna or him, or the thought of them being together. He then explores the house, trying to increase his chances of survival, if in fact the psychopath intends to pay him a visit and do what they said they would do to him. He first lights a candle to improve his visibility, then plans on finding his graduation album to go over the list of suspects who might be the kidnapper, someone who knows him. Going over his high school and elementary school classmates, he notes that none of them could be the killer, since none would hold any grudge against him, especially as he was the one who was bullied, with anyone having a motive of killing anyone would be himself. He then goes over the memos of his co-workers, noticing none of them could possibly be the killer, having no motive of targeting him, especially as he doesn't know them too well, and neither do they. He then thinks of the most likely person, none other than So-young, his ex-girlfriend who was a troublemaker, someone who could be the killer, unhappy about Young Chol being with a new girlfriend. He confirms his suspicions that she was very envious and her talking style matches the person who spoke to him over the phone. Another phone call startles Young Chol, who confronts the killer, telling her that he knows it's So-young. She confesses that she still loves him and that Yuna tried to take him away from her. Young Chol, still resentful against what she did to him, setting up cameras and memorizing his schedules, controlling him immensely and then becoming homicidal when he wanted to break up with So-young, even spreading rumors against him in university which made him lose all of his friends. Incapable to understand her mistakes and wrongdoings, she continues to express her love to him, saying that these are signs of love. She then confesses her psychotic plans with him, saying how she wants to perform a taxidermy on him so she can always have him just to herself, only looking at her, and not at anyone else, making a puppet out of him. As time passes on, So-young indeed comes to Young Chol's residence, breaking his main door down in a bizarre and horrifying manner, confessing her love to him, while holding a large kitchen knife.
영철아, 사랑해.
In fear, Young Chol locks himself in his office bedroom, which door doesn't last long, with him having a grim fate of being murdered under the hands of the psychopathic ex-girlfriend. The police struggles to find any trace left behind by So-young, being unable to find her, which leads to them and public soon forgetting about her, closing the case, with her getting away with the double homicide of Yuna and Young Chol, seemingly having his corpse preserved to use as a puppet, never leaving her sight, and of course, him not having any choice in the matter. Locking himself this time in the laundry room, So-young breaks the door when Young Chol manages to block her way with some heavy boxes. Despite trying hard, So-young doesn't manage to break through them when neighbors report the loud sounds, when the police comes to the scene, intercepting her and saving Young Chol's life. Young Chol spends several months in the hospital to recover his mental trauma, who manages to move on and continue having a healthy life. But for So-young, she ends up getting a 15-year sentence in prison, labeled as someone who suffered from mental illness, despite any signs being displayed in the story, rather than her being an entitled psychopath. Yuna's corpse was found in a horrible manner, who was a collateral in the toxic relationship So-young had with Young Chol. The social networking platform called SNS labeled it as a yandere murder case IRL, bringing the story to an end. In this ending, Young Chol locking himself in the other room, having the telephone, is left with no other choice than to jump through the window, regardless to the height of being on the 4th floor. So-young chases after him, but soon is stopped by police, who catch her before she kills him. This unfortunately leads to Young Chol, a 24-year-old man, breaking both his legs and spine, ending up as a paraplegic. So-young only gets 15 years of imprisonment, too short for someone who committed a murder in a brutal fashion and had intentions of killing another, causing a lifelong disability, having paraplegia. Young Chol, spending years of his youth in hospital for treatment and rehabilitation, suffers from severe PTSD and eventually unable to live with himself. He proceeds to take his own life, while So-young only gets 15 years in prison. In this ending, if Young Chol locks himself in the bathroom, So-young breaks through the door and slips on the slippery floor, which allows Young Chol to use the opportunity and bash her head in with a brick he found earlier, killing her instantly. The case is then broadcasted as a self-defense murder case after Yuna's corpse is found. Nonetheless, Young Chol gets a prison sentence of 4 years, which leads to him have a criminal record, with him being unable to find any job after his release subsequently. This broken system unfortunately drives Young Chol to insanity, who takes his own life, being unable to live like that. Someone whose only fault was defending himself and saving his life from a psychopathic killer, an unjust fate that he shouldn't have suffered from. There's also a final ending where Young Chol struggles to move the heavy boxes when locking himself in the laundry room, which only happens if he has less than 10 points of stamina. This leads to his end by his psychotic ex-girlfriend, with the police yet again failing to find her, letting her get away with no repercussions. That's it for this video, folks. I hope that you enjoyed it. Make sure to use heavy boxes when attacked by a crazed ex who's after your life. That is if you want to survive and not end up in jail for self-defense. It's been your host Star, and I will see you on the next one.